Thank you for listening to the BJJ Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back to the BJJBrick Podcast. This is episode 262. My name is Byron. I'm here with my good buddies Joe and Gary. We're also known as the Three Stooges of the Jiu-Jitsu world, at least the podcasting world of Jiu-Jitsu. But we can probably claim the title in its entirety. Fellow Stooges, how you guys doing?
Well, if you've seen us on the mats, I think we would be Stooges on the mats there also, not just podcasters.
Mostly for the eye pokes. It's all just early level grappling, the eye poke block, the slap, and all that's good to go. We have a great episode this week. We have Jay Hieron. This is a little bit different of an interview. Usually we bring in different people from the Jiu-Jitsu world, and definitely Jay has spent a lot of time on the mats. He's also MMA guy. He's fought in all the big organizations, from UFC, Bellator, Strikeforce, all the big organizations. He's done very well. He retired from that world, and he's doing stunt work now, and he's in movies and a lot of TV shows. And so it's kind of a fun conversation to talk to somebody like that, because I really don't know much about that world, and learn about it and learn how martial arts has affected the way he thinks about his life and how he conducts himself and that sort of thing. So I had a lot of fun talking with Jay, and I know you guys are having a good time listening to it. And he's also in a movie that's out right now, The Equalizer 2. He stars alongside, I guess he stars right behind Denzel Washington as he tries to assassinate him. Check out the little trailer there. I'll put a link in the show notes, or just type it in Google, probably just as easy, or I guess YouTube is where you search for that. And you can see him in there doing his thing. So a lot of fun having him on the show this week.
Yeah, definitely go check out the movie and support Jay. I've seen it. Very good movie. And, what a better movie to go see, especially if Jay Hieron's in it.
I want to give a quick mention to one of our audiobooks. We have a book called 6 BJJ Training Games. I made this book a little while ago. It's a little over an hour long, and I walk you through 6 of my favorite training methods, things you could do other than just rolling to get better at jiu-jitsu. Typically, these are done while you're rolling, but you kind of change your goals or what you're trying to do, other than just sweep somebody, submit somebody, get a position and win. Like, you're changing the rules a little bit with what you're trying to accomplish, and by doing so, it will kind of get you to explore different areas of your game. And this has been a great learning tool for me. And it's a weird thing, but I really feel that this audiobook can help you alter your own game and discover things that nobody else could show you, because of the things that you'll be doing on the mat that are different, but also kind of within your own game. It kind of pushes you around a little bit and it'll help you explore what's right next to your game that you may not know about. So check it out. It's $5.99. It's an audiobook, much like a podcast, and there are 6 training games that will help you develop your jiu-jitsu. So the link will be in the show notes, my friends.
Yeah, definitely worth $6. I've listened to the book, and I've played a couple of the games. I did going left-handed for quite a while, going to your weak side, and lately I've been playing the ragdoll game, kind of just playing defense and let my opponents take the match where they want to take it, and it definitely it helps you develop your weaknesses and explore your game a little bit.
Well, Joe, you must have got a different audio book than me, because I have been going right-handed here lately, going to my weak side, and it's definitely helped my game. So definitely check it out. I can tell you it's helped my game. Joe's, used it's helped him, and everybody I've talked to has helped him get a little bit better. So definitely check it out. 6 games for BJJ.
Gary's always wanted to try.
It works even if you're left or right-handed.
Yeah, Gary's always wanted to try using his other hand.
Oh, Byron.
I have an off-the-mat lesson I'd like to just mention real quick here, and drag it back on the mats and see what you guys think. Going to go backpacking in the Grand Canyon. So the plan is for my wife and I to start on one rim of the Grand Canyon and then go down into the Grand Canyon, spend 2 nights, and come out the other side alive and well and relatively happy. But this is going to be actually quite difficult for what we're used to doing. So what we've been doing is literally practicing backpacking, which isn't all that exciting. Like, we put our packs on and we'll go walk 6 miles with like 30 pounds on our back. And like, I think the first day we had to walk 15 miles with our packs on, and some of the water weight will fluctuate and that sort of thing. So it may not be super hard. And we're largely going down. We're on a flat course, because that's how the canyon works. But
it's in the desert, Byron.
It is in the desert, and I guess the bottom of that Grand Canyon is pretty warm. Like, it'll be mid-90s, I think, Fahrenheit. And I don't know if this will be a lot of fun or just a challenge that we try to get through and get the most out of the trip that it is. But I think by us training for it like this, it'll add some enjoyment. And it's definitely adding some confidence to me, anyway, because the first day I could hike 15 miles. That idea doesn't sound too insane, but to backpack that, so you have your backpack and all your gear, your tent, and all that, food and that sort of thing on your back. That's a lot. It's slower and it's heavier and that sort of thing. But just training for it, I think, will make the whole experience more enjoyable, other than the actual training part, because it's really not. It's kind of boring to hike around here in Kansas, at least where we're at anyway. But I do think that once we get down there and we're in the Grand Canyon, we'll have a much better trip, because we're prepared for it. We'll be a little bit more confident and feel like we're gonna get through this, and we'll get to enjoy the sights that the canyon provides, which I've never been to. So it won't just typically people will get to the Grand Canyon, they look at it, and then that's it. They go to the visitor center. But we're going to spend a couple days in there trying to not die. But I just think the value of the training is making this a much better experience. And I think if you're going to compete, jiu-jitsu or anything really, the training is an important thing to look at as part of your experience. So, like, your competition isn't just the 2 minutes to an hour that you're out there on the mats. An hour would be pretty darn long, but that's not just competition. It's the experience with your team, going out there, meeting other people, even other people you're competing with, the experience of training. So that's really what we're talking about now. So hopefully, in the months leading up to your competition, you have been on some sort of an upward trajectory with your ability, both physical and mental, and in knowledge base, and you've kind of honed things to a sharp point, like a brick has a sharp point. That's not a good example, but it's just all those things that happen before the tournament are super important, and they should make you have a more enjoyable tournament. Even if it doesn't go well, you should be better at jiu-jitsu for signing up and doing that and pushing yourself, before the tournament even starts that day. So just value your training. It's an important process, and ultimately it'll either give you confidence. Probably will give you confidence if you think about it. If you're nervous, think, yeah, look at all the hard training I did. Look at my great team that I have behind me that has supported me during my training. That's always been a confidence boost to me. And go out there and have a good time. You can't control always whether you win or you lose. You can control how hard you try, and hopefully we'll get out of this canyon and keep podcasting later on.
Well, it makes sense now, Byron. Byron teaches a Tuesday night class and a Thursday night class that I happened to go to last week, and I had no clue why we spent the whole hour doing piggyback rides. One guy would get on our back, and we'd walk across the mats for 15 minutes, and we'd switch, and they would switch back and forth. But it makes sense. You were just maximizing your time and training for your hike, your backpacking, trip right then and there on the mats. So, kudos to you for thinking outside of the brick.
Yeah.
Byron, I think one of the smart things that you're doing that has a real correlation to training for a tournament is you're not just doing physical activity. You're not just doing conditioning work. You're really trying to simulate the actual activity that you'll be doing. You could do a lot of bike riding. You could do some running. You could go to the gym and just go on a Stairmaster for an hour. There's a lot of things you could be doing to increase your physical level of physical fitness for this, but you're actually trying to simulate what it's going to be like. And if you're preparing for a tournament, it's good to go to open mat with your teammates and ask them for their best game, to try and simulate that intensity. And if you've not been to a tournament, if you've got social anxiety issues or you're really nervous, even just going to an open mat at another gym, a month before the tournament or something and getting used to that, the more you can simulate the actual environment you'll be in, the easier it's going to be come the day of the competition.
That's a good point, Joe. It makes me think of, big football games where, you may be going to play at Alabama, someplace that's, got a really crazy crowd. And in practice, they're doing everything they can to simulate the environment they're going to be in. They'll crank up the stereo with, a loud crowd just to make it so you can't hear the play calling and this and that. But, I didn't think about, your point you just made there, Joe, but Byron is he's practicing what he is going to be doing. He's going out for 6 mile walks every night with a 30-pound backpack on. It's going to make the trip that much easier and more enjoyable because he's going to be prepared.
Gary, you're upping my training level. It's definitely not every night, but that's a good point, gentlemen. The idea of doing a tournament and not training and thinking about points at all, that's a pretty common thing that people do. They just train hard, but if you have no idea what the score is while you're rolling, you should probably kind of get that internal clock calibrated to where, if you got taken down, you got your guard passed, okay, I'm down 5 and I need to make some ground up on this or try to finish before it's over. It's not always enjoyable for your training partner if they don't know about it. When it's over, you tell them, hey, I just beat you by points. That may not be what they want to hear, but if it's a fellow competitor, say, hey, I'm going to try to keep track this round, and it might make the difference between your getting swept or not getting swept. Like they fight back a little bit harder for those sort of things, or maybe a near guard pass, doesn't actually get finished because they're scrambling super hard to avoid those points that they would give up. When you're just rolling, a lot of times somebody passes your guard, you just roll with it. You don't necessarily fight nearly as hard as if you're keeping track of the points. So I think that's a good observation, Joe and Carrie.
Great job. Has Becky been working on her fireman's carry? so she can get your old ass out of the canyon after the desert heat gets to you.
I need to have her work on that. That is a good point. Right now, it's just a call to helicopter is the plan, and that's expensive.
Yeah, you don't want a medevac, that's for sure. Besides our off the mat lesson or our on the mat lesson, we also have a quote of the week every episode. And this week's quote is brought to you by John Kennedy. And it's not the John Kennedy. It's a friend of mine that I train with who just happens to be named John Kennedy. And he posted this on social media. He said, reject any doctrine, religious, atheist, political, or cultural, etc., that is teaching you not to befriend the people you happen to meet. And I thought that was worth sharing just on its own merit, because we're living in a society, we're living in a day where as a nation, we're divided, and groups of people are being pitted against each other. And that's just a lousy way to live. And, if you belong to a group that's teaching people within the group that you're better than the people outside of the group, I would seriously reconsider whether I wanted to be a part of that group. And so I thought the quote was worth sharing just on its own method or on its own merit. But it also has a relation to jiu-jitsu in that there are still gyms that are closed off and they discourage their students from going to train at other gyms and going to outside seminars with other organizations. And if you're part of that gym and you have other options, I would strongly recommend that you consider those other options. I don't even like jiu-jitsu guys that have zero respect for older traditional martial arts. I happen to think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is superior to many of the traditional martial arts, but that doesn't mean I think they have no value. My kids took Taekwondo for years, and yeah, they didn't turn into Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee, but there was still value in their training. They learned discipline and respect and a good work ethic. Their physical fitness levels increased, and so there's still value in it. So in your jiu-jitsu journey, you should be friending people that you meet, and that would include having respect for other styles, having respect for other gyms, and you should be exposing yourself to these other styles and these other gyms and gaining the value from them.
Well said, Joe. All but the part where you said that you should be exposing yourself.
well, that will allow you to be involved in a whole different kind of training. I think Gary's familiar with that prison house jiu-jitsu, and exposing yourself to others is one way to get that experience.
Yeah, we take no-gi really seriously there.
The thing is, I think that most jiu-jitsu gyms are pretty friendly and pretty welcoming. That's part of the fun of jiu-jitsu is you walk into the door, get on the mats, and there's a huge variety of people. I've trained on the same mats with a doctor and literally a homeless person on the same mats, having a good time learning jiu-jitsu. Like, man, you can't get much more diverse than on the financial system than those two extremes. And everybody's having a good time. But the thing is, if you are kind of in a more, I don't know if the word is toxic, but a more closed area where people are talking bad about other people and have kind of that negative thing, it's hard sometimes to even realize that that's happening because it's hard to look from the outside at what you're in. But, I think Joe had a good, calibration tool. Does your gym allow you to go to their gyms? Does your gym, have a closed door policy? Those sort of things. Maybe you're in the gym that may be a little bit exclusive as far as, thinking differently about other cultures. And do they trash talk other gyms? Do they trash talk other martial arts? Those things might be some warning signs just to look out for.
Absolutely. So thanks, John Kennedy, for providing us with this quote.
And he was also one of the best presidents we've ever known.
He may have been president of his high school class, but that might be it.
I bet it was a very good high school class.
I wonder what kind of marketing he used to get that sort of a rank. You got to roll with what you got, But thank you to Joe's friend John Kennedy. Let's roll an interview with Jay Hieron. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
In an effort to blend traditional martial arts with BJJ, he was successful in breaking 5 cinder blocks with his triangle choke. He put Frankie Valli in a triangle, and he screamed for Sherry Baby. In an effort to fight crime, he likes to check in on Facebook when he is in a bad neighborhood.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Jay Hieron to the BjjBrick Podcast. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yep, happy to have you. You fought in basically all the major organizations in MMA, and you've had a very great career, and now you've kind of made a transition, and you're doing some work in movies and TV and some stunt work as well. So, Jay, could you do me a favor? Just give us a little introduction about your martial arts career, and then the transition into what you're doing now.
Sure. Well, I started wrestling in high school. I started actually boxing first when I was 13, right before high school. I was a smaller kid. I didn't grow until later in my life. So I started boxing, just a way to be able to protect myself. I grew up with all older sisters. So I didn't really have an older brother to run to or whatever when I got into some problems. So anyway, I started boxing. And it was a little ways away from where I lived. So when I was going into high school, I was like, I got to figure out some other way to learn some type of, something to protect myself. And I found that they had wrestling in my high school. And I joined the wrestling team, and that, that's definitely was great for me. It was, I excelled at it pretty quick. I caught on, and I fell in love with the sport. And, I did real well for myself in high school. I was an All-American. And I went to states a few times, won the counties 3 times, and then I went over college, and I won the nationals in junior college in Nassau. All through high school and college, You might know a guy named Phil Baroni. He was a UFC fighter as well.
Sure.
He was doing this fight thing on first. We went to college together. We didn't go to the same high school, but we went to college together. And he was doing like actually tough man competitions and Golden Glove boxing. And this is right before MMA started really blowing up. But yeah, he was doing that. He would bring gloves down to the wrestling room, and we would all mess around with them. I never thought about being an MMA fighter at the time. I was just, wrestling, and then, moving forward around, what year was it? Maybe 2001. Yeah, it was still early stages in MMA. Really didn't cross over to mainstream yet, or just about crossing over. And I went out to Vegas to help him. He moved to Las Vegas. He was fighting in the UFC, and I went out to help him train for a fight. He had a wrestler. He was fighting Matt Linlin, and he brought me out to help him train. And I just seen the level of it. At the gym at the time was Tito Ortiz was in there, Carlos Newton, great old school guy, fighter.
Yeah.
Matt Hughes was in and out of there. So it was, I got a feel for that, and I was just like, whoa, these guys are the best in the world, and they're all kind of training around the same gym. And I got to see them. I mean, they weren't really training there. They would just come into Vegas and they would stop through there. It was John Lewis's gym at the time. And kind of right there, I was like, let me try this out a little more. Actually, I got in a little trouble, and that was definitely training was a way for me to clear my head. And then I just started getting better and better at it. And yeah, man, now long story short, that's how I got into fighting.
So you started basically with some boxing, and you transitioned to wrestling, and I'd imagine once you got into fighting, your boxing came back and you added other strikes as well.
Yeah, I mean, there was so many different arts involved, even jiu-jitsu actually. One of my first training partners was a guy named Joe D'Arcy, he was already a black belt under Renzo Gracie's. And it was funny because every time we sparred, I would shoot. One of my best takedowns through my wrestling career was a high crotch. But that takedown puts your neck, it exposes your neck to a guillotine. And he would snatch my neck up every time I shot that shot. And I was like, what the hell? But it was great for me because it made me really respect jiu-jitsu, the art of it, because I thought I could take any jiu-jitsu guy down at will. But, I wasn't, I was putting myself in danger by doing that for the guillotine choke. And I really had it really made me respect jiu-jitsu and say, oh, you know what? I have to learn this. I have to learn this art.
Yeah. So
early on in my career, I was like, okay, this stuff really works. I have to learn it, because I had a great guy around me in my training, and one of my sparring partners at the time was Joe D'Arcy.
That's cool. And I had a chance to interview him a couple of years ago, and he's the guy that the Darce choke is named after. But basically it came down to D'Arcy choke doesn't sound cool. Darce choke sounds like it has a good ring to it. So that's funny.
Yeah.
But a little bit of history, and you've been around the martial arts game a long time. Are you still involved? Are you still training anywhere or doing anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I didn't retire because of competition or training wise. It was more business wise and what made sense. But yeah, I loved to train. I still train in Extreme Couture in Las Vegas, and in New York, I train at Belmore Kickboxing Academy, where I started. So yeah, I still train a lot. I'm drilling a lot, working technique stuff and all that. They're just the sparring, not as hard as I used to, of course. I can't get in there and just bang out, 7 rounds of sparring with a guy that has a fight coming up, or that's out, or 2-3 weeks out from a fight and has that eye of the tiger.
Yeah.
I'll play around in there, I'll get in there and spar, but just, if a guy is close to a fight and he needs real work, I'm not giving anybody real work, Well, but I'll play around, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'll get in there and mix it up, roll, do some ground, and definitely do some rounds for sure, you know. And then they still laugh till this day because they're like, damn, man, this guy's retired and he still keeps up, you know. It's funny.
Well, it sounds like you've taken your intensity down a little bit, but you're still working on getting learning more and getting better as a martial artist. But you're just it doesn't make sense for you to go in there and do super hard training rounds if you're not actually training for a fight. You're training very smart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because a few months back I got hit with something really good, and I'm like, you know what, I shouldn't be taking these shots, you know, because I still got that in me though. Once I get in, we're mixing it up, and you know, I'll go just as hard as the guy goes, but it's my job to be like, you know what, before this even gets there, let me tell her, you know what, if you got a fight coming up and you need real work, just, you know, you might want to go with this guy over here because, you know, it's not that I won't, you know, it's just that I'm trying to be smarter now.
Yeah. Hey,
but again, I know I have that in me still, so that's good. That's a good feeling too, right?
Yeah. Still have the warrior's heart.
Yeah.
So
just not getting paid for it no more. So
but I mean, it's most people who train and do martial arts aren't getting paid for it, but they find a sense of enjoyment out of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have to. It's a great thing. You know, if a lot more people in the world found martial arts and trained, they, you know, the world would be a better place. You know what I mean? Because it's somewhere where you could go to let your aggression out, get stuff off your chest, and you could be a new man after training.
Yeah, I think you mentioned at the beginning when you started training, you would go in and you had some stuff going on off the mat, but you go in and you kind of clear your head as you train and you feel better about it.
Absolutely. Everything in my life that I went through hard in my life, thankfully, I've been training since I was 13 years old. I found an outlet for myself to get through anything going on in my life. So, I mean, I'm blessed. In that sense, I found an outlet that, you know, my life could be going total chaos going on and stuff falling apart around me, which has in my life in the past. And I, you know, go to the gym, hit the bag, spar, or, you know, wrestle at the time in school, and I could just, you know, focus and get through anything.
The mental, you know, things that martial arts has given you has been, it sounds like a true gift. Now you're doing different type of work, still physical, sounds like, but tell us a bit about what you're up to.
Well, I transitioned into acting and stunt work I transitioned full time in 2013 after my last fight, but I started back in around 2006 because I started training with Randy Couture around 2004. You know, we were training together, a bunch of us, and, you know, he opened the gym and had a team, pretty much put a team together, and he asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. It was great. But he was acting, you know, around those years. Well, he still is, but, you know, he kind of turned me on to it, and he introduced me to a few people, and, you know, I kind of did it on the side, you know, a lot of, you know, I was doing a lot of fight scenes for film and TV, and you know, at first I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make this a career out of this. It kind of like was gradual. It was kind of over a period of time that I kind of was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I got more interested in it. I learned how to film fight, because there's an art to it. You know, it's not just two guys fighting on camera. You know, there's a previs, they shoot previses, and they train really hard to make it look good. So I got into it, learned, and, you know, I'm still learning. And my last fight, 2013, I sat down and you know, made a decision to go for my new career, which is acting stunt work.
Yeah. And you've been in a ton of movies and TV shows. Could you maybe list a couple of your favorite?
Yeah, well, definitely, of course, the last one I was a part of. Well, not the last one, but the one that just came out in theaters, Equalizer 2 with Denzel Washington, was a great experience just working with him, and, you know, just seeing the level of you know, why he's considered one of the greatest of all times. It was just, you know, incredible to watch, and the director was great. he has a great eye for filmmaking, and just hearing him and Denzel talk. There was an open mic in the car. The whole scene took place in a car. So it was really tight quarters, and I was just gaining all that knowledge, just hearing them talk back and forth, and watching, of course, him, Denzel in the scene, and just getting feedback from the director, and it was great.
Yeah, it looked like you're in the trailer for the movie, and you're trying to do some damage to the guy.
Oh yeah. I'm an assassin, man. I'm trying to take him out. Yeah. Man. So that's what was pretty cool about the scene, how he gets in the character. He's like a method, he gets deep in the character. So he just made it, I was an assassin there to kill him. So at first he really wasn't, engaging with me. And that was why he was making it real. So it was really cool. It was really cool to see that, see him prepare and all that. Of course, after a while, he was, definitely cool, but then he would, get right back in the character and do his thing. Super, super professional, respectful dude, but just, definitely, gets into his mode, and it was definitely cool to see that.
Yeah. So is there any any lessons you've learned from one thing that you've been able to apply to the other one? As far as learn something in martial arts, and then you're coming over here and learning about the craft of acting and stunt work, and anything that martial arts has helped you with?
Martial arts has helped me with my whole life, man. I mean, I wouldn't be in the position I am if I didn't, start martial arts or form of the boxing at first, and then wrestling, and then, it felt like I was doing something just to compete and then make martial arts. If I look back at it, I was doing all these little different arts, but I combined them in the end to be a mixed martial arts fighter. But yeah, it all helped me out going into the business I'm in now. I mean, of course, I'm doing most of the stuff I do is fight scenes. So yeah, the martial arts helped me for sure. And then, the characters I play, especially that character, I just, the way I'm looking at him and stuff, I was making it real. Like we're at a UFC weigh-in or a fight weigh-in, and I'm going to fight you tomorrow. So I'm trying to look through you, type of thing. So that's what I feel like I bring to a table when I play a character. I've been in the cage. I've been in real fights. So, that's what I put the way I put my feeling on it. I'm trying to look through you.
Yeah. Not all of your stunt work has been fighting, though. Have you done driving cars fast and that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, I've done driving cars. I've jumped off some buildings. I've hung off a helicopter. I've done some wild stuff, man. And it's definitely dangerous. If it goes wrong, it's going to go wrong. It's not like a fight where, okay, you get knocked out, you wake up and you're all right. But, it's just, if something goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong.
How do you train for that? Like driving a car really fast, down the street or something like that. How do you prepare yourself for that?
Well, first and foremost, if it's something super specific, or they're gonna bring in a specialist in that field. So somebody say so there's 100-foot fall, they're gonna bring in the specialist for that, like a high fall specialist or a high fall diver or something like that, or there's some stuff I've done that like the helicopter stuff, but we had a pilot that he's the specialist in that field. He's a stunt helicopter pilot. I'm not flying the helicopter, but I'm hanging on the side of it, which is still dangerous. But again, going back, of course, a lot of the stuff I get is fighting. I'm a fighter, so I get that. I mean, again, if something's really, really sketchy that I don't think I would do, I would say that. The worst thing you could do in this business is say you could do something and you can't. It's a really small community, and everything's, it goes by your name, so you want to keep your name right.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of the stuff I do is fighting, and that's what I'm known for, because I am a fighter. But yeah, I've done a lot of different things, man. I did a full fiber too. That was actually pretty nutty. My whole body being lit on fire, which is kind of crazy.
Wow. I can't really imagine. They put like a suit on you and they put gel on? How does that even work?
No, there's no suit. Actually, it's gel. It's like, I think they used to use suits back in the day, but now it's like a new stuff. There's some gel, and the fire stays like literally on top of the gel. It doesn't get to your skin. A little bit, don't get me wrong, it's super dangerous, but there was the time I did, I had great people around me, guys that have been doing fire burns for 30 years, so I was pretty comfortable, but it was still crazy looking through. Like, I had the gel on my face, and I had my eyes open, and I was looking through flames, dude. It was crazy.
Wow. And I'm guessing you're just holding your breath the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much, And you only lit up for about, I think I was like less than 20 seconds.
Yeah, that sounds like a long time, Jay.
Yeah, it's still nutty to, again, most of the stuff I get is fighting and, falling and stuff like that. And I'm very cool with that too. I do a little driving, basic, but, again, if it's going to be something really, really, really precise, they're going to call the specialist in, and that's, these guys have been driving, 30 some odd years, and that's their lane. Again, if they need a badass fighter that could, character, and he can act, they call me.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like how you talk about it's a small community. The worst thing you could do is say you could do something and you can't. And I think about like even in jiu-jitsu, if a student asks me a question, hey, can you show me, let's just say the Darce choke, and I have no idea what it is, the worst thing I would do is say, yeah, I know how to do that, and here's how it's done. Like, that's not a smart move. You gotta do what's best for the student, and you gotta do what's best, at the on set of the movie. Say, you know what, I'm not capable of doing this. It's outside of my skill set, and that protects your reputation and having that small community where everybody knows each other and they know you're a man of your word. That it reminds me of the martial arts community.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Same thing with martial arts communities. Very small. Guys out there saying, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that." You could definitely pull that guy's card real quick, especially now with the internet. Or it is, in fighting, is so real that somebody's going to test you. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. Especially you saying all this and that. Then okay, let's go spar and we'll see. Right? So yeah. That's the beautiful thing about fighting. It's real as it gets, man. It's so real that it shows you when you're on top of the world, and it shows you when you're done. It shows you, when you're old overnight. You could be beating people's ass and you could be old over your next fight. That's how real the sport of fighting is. It's unforgiving, and it's the highest highs, it's the lowest lows.
How has the transition gone from considering yourself, I'm one of the top MMA fighters in the world, and now you've made the transition to being in some of the biggest movies in the world, but you don't like you say, you go to the gym and you train and you have fun and you do some sparring, but you're not going to do the same level of sparring as it used to do. Is that does that change the way you think about things, or are you? Is that just
that's just me doing the sparring thing just recently. Within the last year, I started pulling back from that. I was in there banging. I'm not even going to lie. I was in there the last, few years, still trying to compete hard. And just this last year, I was like, nah, you know what? Let me pull back a little bit. Just, not on training, just on sparring guys hard like Uriah Hall and Brad Tavares going, super hard. And these guys are competing on the top level and got fights coming up. And, I just had to come to realization, you know what? I shouldn't be taking those shots. it's not going to benefit me. But sorry, what was your other question?
Yeah, you're just making me think about your current martial arts stuff. I don't remember my other question, but what you said was interesting. If there's a lot of organizations out there that do like competitive grappling, like matches, and they pay for those. Like, would you be interested if somebody like, I don't know, Fight to Win or Casal came to you or Polaris and said, hey, will you do a match with this guy, just jiu-jitsu or just like no-gi style of submission wrestling? Would you be interested in that?
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't say right off the bat, like no. But I mean, I'm pretty busy. Thankfully, I'm blessed to be busy on what I'm doing now, and I like what I do now. So, all my energy is there. I mean, I'm not a natural at acting, so I got to really work on that craft. And it's like martial arts, man. You put into it what you want out of it. So it's definitely my full takes up all my time right now. And again, man, listen, when I feel like, when I feel froggy, I jump. I go to the gym. I get all that out of there. Awesome. And it makes me understand, listen, these guys are training really hard. This is what they have, that eye of the tiger. They're hungry. When you're rolling or when you're sparring or training with somebody that's hungry, it's a different level. Yeah. I'm just trying to keep up and stay in shape and be a part of it because I still love it. I love to train, but competing, I mean, something like that, I wouldn't say, absolutely not. But I mean, I'm pretty focused on what I'm doing at the moment.
That makes sense. Looking at you've been in a lot of things. Like think back maybe in the past year, maybe 2 years, like what has been the biggest lesson you've learned as far as acting or being, great with your stunt work or anything like that you've made a big leap in as far as your ability and maybe like something that you've learned or how you learned that?
Lesson. I mean, anything's possible. I reinvented myself after fighting. So, that's pretty, good lesson for myself. Keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other, because it wasn't easy for sure. I mean, that first year of me transitioning, I was like, man, should I take another fight just to have some money in the bank? Because I was, after my last fight, I wasn't doing real well financially. And then I'm starting a whole new chapter and new career and trying to reinvent myself on, on nothing to back me money-wise. And I'm just like, should I fight again? And I just kept pushing, man, kept moving forward, just believing and just grinding. And I guess looking back, that's probably the biggest lesson, that, you can reinvent yourself if you work very hard and believe and keep grinding and just one foot in front of the other. A lot of doors close and, that maybe the next one will open. So, and that's exactly what this business is about. Everything is it's out of your control. So you got to just keep one foot in front of the other. Cause they asked me about, they kind of, like you a little bit, what's the difference between this and fighting? I mean, it sounds crazy, but you can control a little bit more your destiny in fighting if you go out and knock somebody out. You can get a different contract, you can get bigger pay. With this, the decision is always up to somebody else. The studio heads or producers or directors. You audition, they like you, they book you, or not. Yeah, it's good to know people too, but it's always up to somebody else's decision. So it's a weird business too. Yeah.
It's kind of like you went from one sport that there are, like it's clearly defined, like you do this and you win. And like you have more points there's judges and stuff like that as well. But like you had a lot of, wins that were, you choke somebody out or, like they were very definitive. Or you go to a sport where there's just judges all the time. Like did they like my audition? I can't tell for sure. Like it's not
This
clear.
Is just judges. Exactly. Yeah. So now I'm just dealing with just judges, I could go out and feel like I knocked the audition out, but it's still up to the judges.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, there's nothing concrete like a fighting going out and putting somebody to sleep.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Again, I enjoy the grind. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the, even the up to somebody else right now, the auditions. I just take them as, you know what, I'm learning, and that's that.
Yeah, it sounds like that's your attitude. Like you constantly want to be learning, and when you're around Denzel, it's like you're just trying to soak up and learn and see how things are working, and that's it's probably like training with. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the martial arts mind frame, right? Just learning. So that's what I brought into this business, my martial arts mind frame. Just, you know what, I'm gonna learn and soak everything up, and just, one door closed, another one open, and just one foot in front of the other. Martial arts mind frame.
You've been in the business a while, and you've got a long list of things you've been in. Besides, like the resume you have from your work, when you go to audition, what are you doing differently during your audition than you did 5 years ago, or what do you do now? That's
everything.
Is it really?
Oh, it's man. When I first started, they were like, remember Homie the Clown from what's that show? Remember the show, the comedy show?
Yeah. What is that called?
Well, anyway, he would come out the back and hit me over the head like, womp, 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 get out of here. That was trash. No, just kidding. But literally, I was, I had to really learn, because I had no idea. And the first thing I auditioned for was a fight role, and I was like, yeah, I got this. And I took the sides, and I was like, yeah. And they turned the camera on, and it was totally horrible. Like, I couldn't transition it into making it real for the camera. Like I could just making it real, and if I'm just talking to a regular guy, that's what I needed to put on camera. But once the camera was on, it was just stuttering, and I just couldn't do it. So it was just learning. And it's like that I take as sparring auditions, because it's like I get better and better each one. So, for me now, it just feels like, okay, I get an opportunity to get in front of somebody. That's how I take it. If I get the role, I get it. If I don't, I don't. On to the next. But that's how I take them now. And that's the mind frame you need to have, because you have no control over them, over booking the role or not, actually. So, again, it's night and day. I just, I had to learn camera angles and eye lines, and just the basic stuff of auditioning, the basic, how to even present yourself. Some people don't want to shake your hand. They're just there to put the camera on, do your thing, and you leave, boom. And that's it, just the whole structure of the business.
Huh. That's interesting. So if you have like a friend who's doing MMA, and he's like, hey, I think I want to try this entertainment industry. I want to, kind of follow in your footsteps. What advice do you have for somebody making that transition now that you've done that? Just definitely, first off, you're going to probably get cast as a fighter if it's a fighter asking me that. So learn film fighting first off, because, they're hesitant also to hire a lot of real fighters, just because of that fact that it's totally the opposite of real punches from camera punches. You know what I mean? The real punches don't sell for film fighting punches, because even when you see like a UFC fight, if you see two guys fighting and one guy gets clipped with something, you have to see the other angle or the replay to see how that hurt him. And then you might see it, and you see the guy's throwing like a half a right hand, and the one guy's coming in, so it's like double impact. So now put that on a film, and the audience would never get that. You need everything to be exaggerated or big for film. It just looks better that way. And that's something that I would explain to somebody like a real fighter trying to come in. Just learn the difference of, from real fighting to film fighting, and why
why everything looks better, bigger and exaggerated, and what they're looking for, and then camera angles and all that. And then that would help big time for them even being considered for something on TV or film.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, and I know it's not the same, but if you think of like a gymnast, somebody who could go out there and do like a couple of flips or like really hard technical movements, but they don't care. They don't want to be like smooth and efficient. And you compare that to somebody who's like in the circus and doing it for entertainment purposes. They want to look really hard, but the actual technique may not be as difficult. So like you really want the looks of like hurting somebody, but you definitely don't want to hurt anybody while you're filming. And like you're trying to hurt somebody, but you're trying to not hurt them. And it's kind of like
that's a good analogy right there. Yep, pretty much like that. You know, which it's hard for a fighter still competing to even, you know what I mean? It's not, you know, it's not impossible, but you know, somebody that's still competing is just like, man, this doesn't work, man. It's not real. Well, that's the thing. It's not real. It's for a movie, you know, it's entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta, it change your mindset slightly. I
respect it fully, man. They work real hard. The fight choreographers, the, you know, actors trying to learn the choreography, the stunt guys, the stunt doubles, they all work really, really hard to make, you know, a scene come together and look good.
Yeah. And I think fighting on film has changed in the past, definitely the past 10 years or so, but recently, like they've definitely seen, okay, real fighting looks more like this. Let's incorporate a little bit more of that into what we have. It seems like
a lot of stuff has incorporated MMA and Jiu-Jitsu, and I mean, if you go way back from Lethal Weapon 1, Mel Gibson was doing triangles. He was training with one of the Gracies back then. So I mean, they were doing it back then. People just didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, but he put a triangle on the bad guy in the part 1 of Lethal Weapon. So
in the front yard, I think in the rain, wasn't it?
In the front yard in the rain, man, and that was a badass scene, dude. I mean, you know.
But now, as the audience, more people would understand that, you know, like that's absolutely. He's doing a move.
That actually works. You know, because of the big because of MMA now. You know, guys are getting choked out cold, and you know they see all this. Different martial arts works, and you know, even the knuckleheads out in the street is putting people to sleep. Not a good thing, but you know, it works, man.
Jay, having you know, you're definitely not new at the acting business, but it's definitely different than facing off against somebody who's trying to beat you in an actual fight. Do you get nervous before filming of a big scene or doing something like that, or has the volume on your nervousness kind of been toned down from having been in all these high stress environments? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. That helped me 100%. Like just being in the scene with Denzel Washington, people ask me, "Were you nervous?" I don't think I was like nervous. I think I was, you know, it's a different energy. Like my last few fights, it's a nervous energy, but I was excited to get in the fight and do my thing. You know, when you feel ready for something, you have the nerves, but you have excitement. So same thing with that. But it's helped me, of course, being on the level I was of a fighter and being, you know, having 30 mixed martial arts fights on the stage I was on and all that. It definitely helps me for being in a scene with one of the greatest of all time, Denzel Washington. And it helped me being prepared and being, you know, relaxed enough, because he's a deep actor, so he starts ad-libbing and improvising in the scene that he did, and thankfully I went with it just because I was sharp and I was focused, and I don't get really starstruck and none. I've worked a bunch of sets and with a lot of actors, so but I respect all of them, of course, and then of course him, he's like one of the top. But, you know, and I'm a big fan, and I love all his movies. I mean, he's like one of my favorite actors, but I wasn't like, oh, you know, starstruck or nothing like that. And let me pull out my phone and take pictures and none. That's a real big no. But I was able. He definitely brought my level up by being in his character as well, and making it feel real, like I'm there to kill him. I'm an assassin, so that's what comes across on screen, man. I'm looking right through him.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna beat your ass, like when you're at the weigh-ins in a fight. I mean, he brought my level up to that, and it was great. I'm more, watching just to learn more than anything.
Yeah, there's a great picture of you guys, and he's in there he's got the wheel, and he's kind of looking at you like, I don't really trust you, and you're kind of looking like, I'm getting ready to kill you.
Yeah, and I put that in my head. I'm gonna beat your ass, man. I'm trying to come over this seat and beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, and you mentioned
so that's what comes across.
That he like necessarily don't stick to the script 100%. A little bit of improv comes in. And I don't really know much about acting, but I do know like one of the bigger things about acting is that you are actually listening to the person as they're performing and doing their thing. So you're actually present on the screen, and you're not just waiting to say your line. Your person, when they're saying nothing, is listening and it is reacting. It reminds me kind of like of, I guess, Jiu-Jitsu or MMA. Like you're constantly reacting to the other person. And there may be kind of predictable movements. Maybe you kind of know where they're going to go next or whatever, but you have to react to what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, again, just staying sharp, staying focused, and then it's take after take after take. So you got to have focus and you got to have stamina because, it's so much time being spent on the scene and retakes and you got to get yourself to that place again and definitely martial arts for sure helped me be present and stay listening and just being sharp.
The stunt business, are there very many people in there that go and they train either MMA or jiu-jitsu? Absolutely, a lot of people, definitely. I mean they work hard, man. I mean it's a full-on business and I respect all of them that do it. Being a stuntman too, it's kind of like being the masked man. It's like you're the Batman with the mask on. You're not really, you're more behind the scenes, but you do, you make everything come together and look great, So they work very hard, man. They work very hard behind the scenes. They do pre-visits. They get clearance from they put the scene together on camera. Then they have to get it approved from the director, or they get notes. Oh, change this, change that. So it's a lot of work that goes involved to these little fight scenes that people see. That I respect all of them. Because it's a lot of work. Yeah. You're a very busy
and there's
guy.
Some badass stuntmen that come from different sports, like high divers and motocross and race car drivers and all different type of professional athletes that are in the business.
You talked about somebody who is good at falling from a high distance. I don't even understand that.
It's kind of nutty.
That sounds crazy. How far can somebody who's good at that actually fall?
Oh, man, they do 100-foot falls all the time, man.
Wow.
On the Equalizer, badass stuntman JJ Dashner did a 90-footer in a sketchy little spot too, off the top of the tower. I mean, it was badass, man. That's not CGI, man. That's a real fall.
I wish there was a way to know when it was CGI and when it was actually real, and that would, I don't know. You get caught up in you just watching a movie, but like you want to give respect to the guys that are out there doing stuff like that.
90% of Equalizer, or 95% of it is practical. Was all done, like fights, falls, car crashes, all that was done practical. That's why the movie's badass. I mean, and it's like kind of a throwback because a lot of movies back in the days, 80s, 90s, 70s, all practical stunts like car crashes, falls, and all that. With now the newer movies, they're more CGI, like the fight scenes and falls, and a lot of it is more computerized. I like all the throwback movies. I like the practical stunts. I like all of that stuff. The hand-to-hands, the falling, the fires, and car hits, and I just like all the old school movies.
Yeah,
and the practical stuff. So it was great to be a part of something like that.
And I bet,
of course,
so
they did a little CG. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I would imagine when you watch a movie, the things you see, like, yell to you, like, okay, that's fake. That, and for me, I was like, I don't know, I can't tell. Like, it's like watching a fake fight, It'd be easy for you to see that.
But I got to tell myself to enjoy it too. I can enjoy a movie too. I don't get all caught up in it. Of course, the action, most times I'm seeing an action scene and I know all the guys, and there goes my man, Anthony or Johnny or whoever. You know what I mean? I'm always looking in to see the guys I work with, but for the most part, I can enjoy movies. I just went to see Mission Impossible. Actually, I didn't get through it because the bulb at the movie theater went out, but it was pretty good. The action was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I still enjoy movies, and sometimes I catch myself trying to break it down or see how they filmed the scene, or, I know how they did that, or, you know what I mean? But for the most part, I'll sit there and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, that's really what they're supposed to do. And I guess, you have several ways to kind of relax and enjoy life. And like movies is one of them. Going to train, and it kind of takes you out of things and lets you de-stress, but train hard. If I got to know, like, if you're giving somebody, let's say one of your friends is going to start an MMA career, what kind of advice do you give somebody doing that this day and age?
Take your time. Definitely take your time. Don't rush. I mean, I know guys that jump in and get a couple, fights and just want to fight on the big level. I mean, just take your time, because you can't go backwards. Once you say you get an opportunity to fight on the big show, now it's going to be that much harder to learn and build your career from fights where you could have before you jumped and fought on the bigger show, because, it becomes a catch-22. They might, not want to fight you anymore just because or a lower fighter might not want to fight you anymore because you fought on the big stage, and, you might not be able to get the bigger fights. You might have lost that fight. So it's a little hard. I was caught in that position for a little bit, but again, one foot in front of the other. So I think coming as a new fighter, I mean, if you're fighting amateur, fight as much as you can possible amateur. When you turn pro, fight on the smaller circuit as much as you can pro. And, again, you can't turn down big opportunities. I mean, there's a time too when something gets presented and it's you have to take that. That's being a fighter too. But if it's in your control and you have good people around you, helping you, with your career and helping you move forward and getting you the right fights, that's the best thing you could have. Get good people around you and take your time and take your steps as you can. Take the best, avenue you can as being a fighter, so you have longevity.
Yeah, and that could be very tricky. It sounds
very
like you
tricky. Again, very tricky, because you don't know when that opportunity comes either. Somebody could get hurt on a big card, and your numbers pick right there. And you get offered a short notice fight where that's a good opportunity. You never know. I'm just saying, before those opportunities come, man, get all that out in your amateur career. And then when you start pro, get the right pro fights and get as many as you can. If you're not getting hurt and you going out and finishing the guy in first round and you're not hurt, jump on another card as soon as possible just to get your record up and get those feelings out in those first couple pro fights. Fight in front of your hometown, fight in front of your fans, and just getting all those feelings out and work out your kinks out there. Because once you get to the big stage, it's right, you win that first fight in the big show, they're going to put a name in front of you, or the next fight is going to be harder. It just gets harder and harder and harder. So, but again, you don't know when the opportunities comes either. So it's just being ready, and just staying active, staying sharp, staying focused, and having good people around you, the right team, and helping you make those decisions.
Yeah, it sounds like you are advising that you, especially early on, you kind of view those fights as lessons, and it's not like just go out there and win, but like go out there, you're also learning how to fight, you're learning how to train and not be nervous, and learning how to handle a lot of.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're trying to go out there and finish that damn fight for sure. If it ends the first round, put them away. But what I'm saying is, like, for instance, amateur, get as many as you can before you turn pro. Don't just get one amateur and turn pro. Get 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 if you can. That's where you learn everything, and it doesn't go towards your pro record. So that's I feel like that's a big mistake, just jumping straight from amateur to pro right away. I mean, just get out there and mix it up and learn and do the grappling tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments. Those are great learning experiences. I mean, if you can't get an MMA fight and you're still amateur, get a boxing amateur fight, get a amateur kickboxing fight. Just stay active is what I mean. Just staying as busy as possible if you're healthy.
Wrestling high school, wrestling college, right?
Wrestling high school, wrestling college. I mean, those are great. That's great foundation to have. And then when there's Grappler's Quest and all those little grappling tournaments, jump in there, get that experience. Because once it becomes a business and once it becomes, your livelihood, everything starts, it's harder to, you can't really get injured outside of training for a fight,
Yeah.
Have fun with it. Have fun with it when you're starting out. Definitely have fun with it. Compete and have fun.
Why is it important to have fun with it?
Yeah, because, you don't want to be, be jaded and just, feel like you're in a position where you're just fighting for the money, and that's a big reason why when I had this decision to retire, I was content. I looked at my career and I said, you know what, I could have did a lot better. I really wanted to, go after more of my goals and dreams with fighting, but I was content as well. My money wasn't where I wanted it to be. I had a different opportunity on the table, but when I look back at fighting, martial arts changed my life for the better. I traveled the world. I met a lot of great people, and I did make money too. I bought a house from fighting. I mean, well, that's crazy to me. So, incredible. Yeah. I mean, so I could have, chased the dream a little more, but I mean, I just felt like, my time is up, and I loved what I did, and I was content. I did win a world title in 2007. I was trying to go after the UFC gold. I mean, it just, kind of passed my time, and I just had other things on the table, and I was very content. So that's why I chose to retire at the time. But again, I had fun doing it when I look back on my career. So a younger guy, if I'm talking to him, listen, have fun with it. Train right, train smart, train hard, but have fun and keep your head right, and sky's the limit. If you have the right people around you and you do everything, the best way you can, and hope the opportunities will come. Hopefully they're at the right time, and even if it's not, if you just pick yourself back up and keep moving forward.
There we go. I love it. That's great advice. The Equalizer 2's in theaters now. What else is right around the corner? What else are you working on?
Just did a scene on Ray Donovan. That's a pretty cool show. He's a great actor. Liv Schreiber. Couple other things, auditioning a lot. Nothing set in stone yet. Just, grinding, brother.
That's awesome.
Martial arts way, man. Just one foot in front of the other.
Cool. And the Equalizer 2's got great reviews, and like you get to cheat the system a little bit. I'll put a link to the trailer. You're in that, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
but
I'm looking through them like we're at the weigh-ins of a UFC fight.
That's awesome. If somebody wants to just kind of keep up with you and watch your career as you go and to keep up with what you're doing, where's a good place to do that?
You can hit my Instagram. It's at Jay Hieron. My name JayHieron. Same for Twitter and same for Facebook.
Awesome. And that way we don't want to miss anything you're in. So
yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Man, Jay, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank Jay for helping on the show with us and talking, and I guess pushing me a little bit outside my comfort zone as far as interview topics go. I've never really discussed like stuntman work and the movie industry with anybody who's in it, and that is fun to be pushed outside of my area of really any knowledge. And I didn't know there were people that do falls as a profession. Like, hey, we need to have somebody do a 100-foot fall. Well, let's call this guy; he'll do it. Like, that's crazy. How do you get good at falling? I still, there's probably a lot of technique, and it's probably a pretty intensive learning process. But some people could do that sort of thing, where most of us would be dead, to be honest. And maybe they get high divers that practice, with the water for a while. I don't know. If you think about it, there's probably some really smart and careful way to do this super dangerous sounding thing. Maybe a super dangerous, I don't know. But anyway, I enjoyed the interview. It was a lot of fun for me, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And the best thing, go follow Jay on some social media, Facebook or Instagram, that sort of thing, and that way you can keep up with him, watch the movies and stuff. He's in a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies. So it's always just fun when you kind of have a connection with somebody who's behind or who's on the screen there. So that's cool.
I was just looking up his mixed martial arts record, and it's kind of neat to see he's fought Tyrone Woodley. He's fought Jake Ellenberger twice. He's fought Ben Askren. This is a guy who's fought the who's who of martial arts, and going all the way back to 2003. So, a real pioneer in this sport, and now transitioned over to stuntman work, movies.
Yeah, and then go look at his list of TV shows and movies he's in. The list is long as well.
Yeah. You think about sometimes, as you retire from one sport, you retire from, MMA, and, where's your life going to take you? And, his life is just still going great. He's went from, being on the TV or, on pay-per-view for mixed martial arts to being on TV and movies. So, he's really translated into another great career.
Yeah, and you could tell Jay's got that attitude. He's always learning, always wanting to get better, and that's definitely something he picked up. Probably, I don't know, definitely. It looks like that's something that is kind of a martial arts thing as well, that, keep growing. When you're done with one career, it doesn't mean you can't use some of those skills in the next one like he's doing. He's using his kind of fighting skills and background to kind of transition into another thing. It's not the same, but there's some parallels there that he's working on, and he's growing in this area. So that's really cool. I think that really any given career has a certain, like, a timeline that it'll run, and then you gotta look at something else. And if you could use your old skills to transition, man, that makes it a lot easier, and typically you'll start a little bit better off. Gentlemen, we have a interesting article this week. It's on jiu-jitsutimes.com. I think Joe found this one, which I appreciate that, Joe. Dating and training, how to make it work. So I think that's something that some people run into, some people don't. But I think this is definitely worth a read, because even if you're not in that situation, you'll have teammates that are, and it's good to know what's up with your teammates.
Well, actually, man, I think this applies to married and training as well.
That's true.
Kind of what jumped out at me. Like his first point is, he's got 3 points here, kind of three areas where your jiu-jitsu may interfere with your relationships. And the first one was your partner might say, you spend more time at the gym than you do with me. And actually, as you get married and have kids, this might become more of a bone of contention. So I'm glad that he addressed it. He talks about good communication being key. And I would agree with that. You guys know I have a kind of a weird schedule where I'm gone for 2 weeks and then I'm home. And so I typically get home on Thursday. Of course, I don't train Thursday night. It's a long day traveling. I usually don't train Friday either. It's the first day back. And then I try and sit down with my wife and say, here's my plan for next week. I'd like to train Tuesday at lunch, Thursday at lunch, and Friday night or something like that. And then I try and stick with that. Her big issue is not usually I spend more time at the gym, but if I go to the gym when she's not expecting it. She might be kind of planning, let's have a nice dinner. You haven't talked about going to the gym tonight. And then at 4:35, I'm packing my bag and she's like, what's going on? So that's when it's problematic for me. So I would agree with his point that planning and communication is probably key in this area.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we've all heard that sort of a comment from either a spouse or somebody you're dating, that you spend too much time at the gym. And a big part of that is the way Joe's talking about it, managing expectations on both sides.
This next point, I've not really had a problem with it, but I imagine Gary has a problem with it. I think your teammate has a crush on you. Should I be worried? And there again, that's not just dating. I mean, if you're married and you're going to the gym, that can also be an issue. Gary, how do you deal with that?
Well, I have that issue happen to me all the time, with my good looks. And no, actually, it never happened to me. And
Gary has what's been described.
People you've ever met.
Gary has what's been described as subtle good looks.
Only from the back. No, I mean, this is, I can see this as a big concern. You're training with this person. You're in close proximity. You get in some weird positions. And when you're doing something you really love to do, you and your teammates that are practicing, you guys, you get close. It's something you both enjoy. So you are going to have a close relationship. And, I can definitely see a significant other, whether it be a man or a woman, worried about, somebody who seems like they're, maybe coming on to you, have a crush on you. And, there could definitely be, being a little worried about that. But, if you want to make the relationship work, you'll make some effort, to find out about what your significant other's doing. Show up for practice, watch practice a little bit, talk to the person you think has a crush on them. A lot of times people from the gym, they go out after practice. They may, go grab dinner, may grab a few drinks and, just hang together as a team, and 99% of the time, just about everything I've seen, the significant others are welcome. So definitely, do that. Maybe even try a free class, check it out, try training, see how you like it. But definitely, I could see being worried, but you need to make an effort into the relationship. Both sides do.
Yeah, I wonder if this point is almost more applicable for the ladies because, I can go to multiple classes in a row and there may not even be a woman in the class for my wife to be worried about. But if you're a girl doing jiu-jitsu, you may go class after class after class with just a bunch of dudes. And I don't know, if I was a 24-year-old guy tending towards jealousy, I might get a little jealous. So, Gary, I think your point's well put. And, yeah, if you're a person in that situation where your significant other is jealous, invite them to class, invite them to the outings, make sure they feel welcome, make sure they don't feel like it's something that's only for you.
Joe, you're talking about, you may go to class and you may go to 5 or 6 classes, there's not another woman in the class. But what about, like I know Byron really likes to attend a women's class. So, he'll do 4 or 5 women's classes in a week. So it could be, for males there also.
Yeah, I just gotta be clean shaven when I show up, and usually I can kind of sneak by the security system.
Hey Byron, we don't want to know about you shaving down there. Let's go on to another point.
Okay, and another point. Then we'll just leave that right there. Is the ultimately, I guess it's a cost thing. He talks about the you bought another gi, like you're getting more things for this, or like this costs a lot of money. This is a big investment in what you're doing. And, maybe you don't need that extra key, or maybe you should buy your spouse or your, significant other something as a gift occasionally versus buying gis all the time for yourself. Just make sure, like that's that relationship thing, like make sure the other person's taken care of, make sure they feel taken care of. So if you want to buy a gi, well, have you bought them anything recently? The money may not be the thing. It might just be a feeling of being a little bit neglected on like a gift area in life, and you're taking care of yourself. You're buying yourself things, but make sure that your loved one feels loved. And man, we're getting into some relationship advice. This is kind of weird.
Dr. Byron. But going back to that, you bought another gi situation. One way, you do want a gi, but you buy a gi, your significant other may get upset. Don't try the trick of buying the gi in your size and what you want, and then giving it to your significant other, your spouse, or your partner as a gift. Because normally that's not going to work. That's not. But
I'll tell you what does work, Gary. On a serious note, this is a trick that I've. I didn't do it as a trick. It's just something that's worked out well for me. Is typically your wife, she might spend $60, $100 buying you some new tools for Christmas, or new ties or something on your birthday. I mean, typically your significant other buys you gifts, and oftentimes they don't know what to buy you. My wife knows what size gi I wear, what size shorts I wear. And she knows what brands I like and the style that I like. And she's probably bought me as many gis and fight shorts over the last 2 or 3 years as I've bought for myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to bring that up there. And I do want to, I just had an experience with that here just yesterday. I was rolling with Byron and his wife, Becky. And I noticed Byron had on a nice brand new rash guard. And I thought it was stylish. I liked it. It was a hypnotic rash guard. And Byron has a very terrible sense of style.
That's true.
And the one thing I noticed, it looked really good. And I even brought it up. I was like, dang, Byron, that's a cool rash guard. Where'd you get it? And Becky smiles and said, I bought it for him. And, that's perfect. It was, another, it's easy to shop for people who do jiu-jitsu. Significant other has it made, because I know when I'm trying to shop for my wife who does not train jiu-jitsu, it's impossible. But for her to shop for me, it's easy. Very easy.
She hasn't worn any of the gis you bought her, right?
Gis? What's a gi, Joe?
Okay.
He's working on a brand of no gi lingerie. And yeah, she got me that rash guard. It's been working great. It like Gary said, it's stylish. It hides a lot of my flaws that I have with my back, chest, stomach, arms, and forearms. Like, it does a lot of stuff for me. And
hey, Byron, I don't think you have any issues with your forearms, though, buddy.
Well, it's a long sleeve rash guard, so you couldn't tell. But that's the thing that where I don't typically buy jiu-jitsu things. We're in a little bit of a unique situation where it seems like every 4 or 5 months somebody sends me a gi or something like that, and I've loaned a few gis to teammates and that sort of thing. But if she's like, hey, I'm going to get you something, and I've been wearing one rash guard for a long time, and she's wanted to update my rash guard, so she did, and that was cool of her. But
we're talking about money. The issue of money for jiu-jitsu is, first of all, a lot of times your significant other, your partner, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, going to think it's, the monthly expense is expensive. And then on top of that, you may have tournaments, you may buy new gis, rash guards, tape, knee braces, elbow braces, doctor bills, all that stuff. Hey, this is expensive. I look at it the other way is it's keeping me healthy. I mean, I know I just talked about some injuries, but jiu-jitsu people, on a whole, are healthier individuals. You're exercising 4 or 5 days a week. You're flexible. You're strong. You got a strong mind. You don't give up easily in situations. I really think jiu-jitsu people, this is my thought, but I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think any studies have been made, but I think jiu-jitsu people, wrestlers, MMA people, probably have a higher earning potential just because of what they can go through. I mean, they go through some tough times, and we're used to being put in bad situations and persevering and going through it. So, I think all that money is, that we spend on the sport is, for ourselves. It's to make us a better person, to make us healthier, to make us live longer, to make us happier. And hopefully that'll translate to a better relationship.
This article was written by Isaac Olson. The last point that Isaac makes in there...
Is that one of the Was that the Olsen twins' dad?
I doubt it's Gary.
Okay.
But the last point that he makes is when all else fails, you've tried it all and you're still having some problems with your person in your life being on board with your jiu-jitsu journey. Bring them to class, get them on the mats, and get them to experience it. That might be the thing that actually gets them on board, or at least helps them understand what's happening when you're at class. And there's different ways to do that. If I would recommend doing this to somebody, I would say, have it be a fairly structured and engineered process to where, if I'm bringing, let's just say my wife Becky for the first time to Fox Fitness, is where I train and where she trains quite a bit with me. I'm going to make sure that I have Frances is there. She's a great training partner, and Bilana's there. And so I probably will send them. This has happened. This type of thing's already happened. But I would send them a message of, hey, you guys girls going to be in class. I'm planning on bringing my wife tonight. If they both said no, maybe it's a different night. But I want her to have like the best possible experience when she gets there. And if it's like a small class and everybody's kind of extreme or kind of grumpy or it's like it's a rough group, that may not be the right class to bring them to. But bring her to the class where she's likely to enjoy it, meet some cool people, and have a good time. Whether it's for her or not, that's not really anything you could do. But you can make the experience as enjoyable as it can, and that exposure would be a positive thing if there's a chance for that to happen. And so and that even goes to who. If she's rolling or if she's partnering up with somebody that's not you, who is that person that she's rolling with? And I sometimes will still help her kind of get partnered up with somebody who's going to be more fun and educational versus somebody who's kind of a little on the rough side and super sweaty like Gary. She likes rolling with Gary, but a lot of times Gary trains super hard, and if we get there kind of late or it's at after an hour and a half, she usually doesn't roll with Gary because he's already soaked. But if she can get first round with Gary, I'll say, hey, team up with Gary. And Gary always shows her how to beat me up. And one of us appreciates that. But
definitely.
I guess look at what they're receiving and look at what they're getting out of it. Some people don't want to be matched up with anybody but you. Or maybe just other girls. That's perfectly. Take her to women's class. You sit on the side while she attends a women's class. That that would be one option as well. Never done that before, but that would be something that you could do, and have her make some friends. That's the big thing.
Yeah, what I really like here is Isaac talks about his wife Maggie. Basically, he convinced her to try a class. She showed up for a class and told the instructor that, hey, Isaac told me. Wanted me to try a free class, try a free week. This will probably be the only week you see me. And 2 years later, they're still training together. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing before we get off this topic. I think it was last week we sort of adopted or co-opted a word that's thrown around social political circles a lot these days, sustainability. And I think we were talking mostly about taking care of yourself and training smart and avoiding injuries and stuff. But this topic, I think, also has to do with sustainability, because I know for me, if my life's falling apart outside of the gym, my jiu-jitsu is probably not doing very well either, and it's likely not. And it's not likely to continue. So this is a good example of happy wife, happy life.
Yep. If you're going to make it sustainable, you've got to have your people in your life on board with it. And that's a big key. So check out the article. There'll be a link to it in the show notes. And nice work, Isaac. I'd like to thank our Patreon supporters. Highlight a couple of them here: Rob, Craig, and Michael. Thanks for your continued support on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting this podcast, helping it grow and become bigger, better looking, and possibly even stronger, or just sound better, or what else we're going to do. We're hoping to do bigger and better things, to be honest. But if you're wanting to support us, we'd appreciate that. Go to the link in the show notes on Patreon, and we'll send you out a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch, sticker. All of our Patreon supporters are welcome to join our private Facebook group. Send me an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com, and I'll get you invited into our private Facebook group. And yeah, it's been good. So most people on there, don't pledge a certain amount per episode, like $1, $2 or $3 per episode is amazing if you're able to do that. But that does add up, and it does help us a ton. So thank you guys for your continued support on Patreon.
Also, check us out on social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook. We actually have a BJJBrick app, but, Facebook is our big one. Joe is actually a black belt in Facebook, in my opinion. Joe's always putting stuff up there, good stuff, funny stuff, important stuff that makes you think. And every day Joe's surprising me putting something else up there. I think our Facebook page is top notch, and Joe gets a lot of good content on there. So definitely look for BJJBrick on Facebook. Like it. Tell all your friends to like it. Tell your friends about our YouTube channel, and tell them about the podcast. We really appreciate that.
Yep, and if you want to catch every episode every week, and you don't want to have to worry about going and downloading it somewhere, we've got an app for that. So check out our app, put it on your phone, and you'll get every episode when it comes out. Speaking of episodes, our next episode is our BJJ Extra episode, and we've got Tim Crater on the episode. Tim's a UFC veteran. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt from the state of Louisiana. I spent a lot of time there. He's a local legend, so make sure to check that out.
Yep, awesome job there, Joe, getting Tim for an interview. That's going to be awesome. Just in a few days, really. Had a great week this week. Good time with the interview. Good time talking with you guys. Had a good time. Stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better. We'll see you on the mats, guys.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.